Welcome back to another episode of Living in Fort Collins. I am Izzy Ibrahim. I am newer to this channel. If you don't recognize me, go back and watch some previous videos that I have posted. About 3 to 4 months I've been on this channel, but I've been working with Pat for 4 years and I've been loving coming on here and sharing from a female, non-native perspective of living here in Fort Collins, Colorado. And today I'm going to be talking about things that I wish I knew before moving to Fort Collins, Colorado. If you've seen some of my older videos, you'll know that I have been living here for about 7 years now. I moved from just outside Seattle, Washington, Redmond, Bellevue, but also like Monroe, Woodinville area, if any of those are familiar to you. And before that, my family immigrated to America from the UK when I was about 5 or 6 years old. And so definitely different perspective, larger city to a slightly smaller city to a much smaller city here in Fort Collins. And I'm sharing with you today things that I wish I knew before moving here to Fort Collins, Colorado. So I did my best to come up with some unique things that I haven't touched on already in my pros and cons video or my 10 things to know before moving here to Fort Collins. And but also genuinely just telling you things that I wish I knew before moving here, specifically coming from the Pacific Northwest. Number 1, the first thing that I wish I knew before living here was how many lakes that we have. I came from the Pacific Northwest, so we had the oceans, we had lakes, a lot of lakes as well. And I was really worried that moving to a landlocked state, it was going to be just like, yes, some mountains, but then just dry and no lakes. And I love swimming, I love paddleboarding, I love the water in general. And so I was worried that there would be none of that here. And I was so surprised driving around when I first moved to Colorado, how many lakes that we have here. Now, I personally prefer swimming in lakes. I definitely do miss when I was younger, we'd go to the beach and we'd find mussels when we were camping and cook them at our campsite. Sometimes it was like not allowed, but we did it anyway. I loved crabbing. I loved looking for, when the tide's out and looking for starfish and putting them back in the water. Or if you know what a gooey duck is, that's a whole thing and a half. But like looking for those was always fun. So definitely don't get that experience here, but I knew that coming into it. But I was pleasantly surprised at the number of lakes that there were here, considering it being a landlocked state. That brings me to number 2. I came from Seafood Central, and I love seafood. I love sushi. And so it's funny, actually, because my first job when I moved here was working at Sushi Jeju, which has insane sushi. I love that place. It's in Old Town off Mason. I was really worried about finding seafood and sushi that would taste as good. Jack's Fish House in Old Town, they fly in their seafood fresh daily and you can taste the sea. It's so amazing. I will admit that I've gotten grocery store seafood or grocery store sushi, and there's a difference, right? Like when I go home to Washington and we get sushi, I can taste the difference for sure. But I wasn't expecting to find a few places here that I thought was great, considering it being a landlocked state, and especially finding Jack's Fish House that flies in their seafood daily. The mussels are insane. The calamari, you have to go during happy hour because, well, obviously all their drinks are on a discount, but also they have their calamari, which is insane, on the happy hour menu. Their mussels are amazing. Their oysters are amazing, and it's all flown in fresh. So definitely wasn't expecting to find that here, and so happy that I did. Being on the topic of food, my number 3 was didn't even consider and think about the lack of diverse foods here. Now, I come from Washington. We have, every cuisine you can think of, we have it. And we have it made right and very well. And so moving here, I didn't really think about that, but I love most ethnic foods. My favorite being Indian, Turkish. I'd say we have a lot of Thai places around here, and I love that. We have a lot of Thai places, and we have really great Mexican here too. But my 2 favorites are Indian and Turkish, and I have found an Indian place that I love. We actually work in the same building as it, Taj Mahal. It's great, but it's not the same as like Kanishka back in Redmond, Washington. That place is amazing. There's so many good places in Washington, but also the population of people from India is huge there. So it makes sense, right? I'll say the Turkish thing is sad for me because we don't have one Turkish place here in Fort Collins. And so it's definitely stretching my skills of making it myself. I wouldn't say I found the time to do that much recently, but definitely wasn't expecting or even thought about that because I was so lucky where I came from. And then obviously when I would go home to the UK, you have kebab shops on the corner, but there's none of that here. So definitely wasn't thinking about the lack of diverse foods here. However, I will say we have so many local places here and so many different kinds of food that you can get here. I would just say that the diversity in terms of ethnic foods is maybe not the best. Number 4, I didn't think about until I moved here the poor public transportation that we have. Now, I will say it's better than I expected for being a smaller town. And one thing I'll say that's different from here versus where I've lived in the past is I've usually always lived somewhere where I could walk to a grocery store or walk to, you know, kind of like we have like if you've been at Jessup Farms here in Fort Collins, where there's like little shops and an ice cream shop, but there's still no, well, I guess, and if you go the other direction, there's a King Soopers and tons of like little shopping centers. I've always lived near that, or at least lived near a grocery store that I could walk to. And so public transportation's never been a thing I haven't thought about. And I do now have a car, but my first year as a freshman at CSU, I did not. And my second year is when I started to get a car. And so getting a job and things like that were definitely more difficult because of the lack of transportation. Now, while I say that, I will say that I'm really impressed with our Max Transport line that goes up, down along College. And so if you work in Old Town, but you're like within biking distance to the Max line, then like they come every 10 minutes and then you can easily get a ride into work. That's how, when I first started working for Pat, I was a junior at CSU, and I would it was all over the place. I did have a car at the time, but I would drive my truck to CSU before parking was charged, go to the gym, at least when the gym opened at 6 a.m., get ready at the gym, go to my first 8 a.m. class. I'd move my car, go to my first 8 a.m. class, and then I would park my car. Oh yeah, my car would be parked where it was allowed to be parked. And then I would take my stuff after my 8 a.m. class, go to the Max line, take the bus into Fort Collins or into Old Town, go to my job, in the Old Town Square. I worked right above Lucky Joe's in a little office. And then I would work for a few hours, and then my next class would come. So then I'd go back to the transport line, which was just along Mason, actually. Like, it's off College, but it's really Mason is where the line is, which is right next to my office, which was a blessing. And so then I'd get back on the bus, we go back to my class at school, and then sometimes I'd come back to the office and keep working, and then go get my car when I go back to CSU. So it was a lot of back and forth, but it was wonderful, and I didn't have to, like once you get a parking spot at CSU and it's free, you don't want to move it. You don't want someone to take it. So getting that spot early in the morning and then just taking the transport back and forth between CSU and my office in Old Town was wonderful. So while I say it's definitely poor, for sure, it's not great. I think if you have to rely on it, it's not great, but incorporate it into your schedule. Incorporate it into maybe having a car but not wanting to use your car as much, or maybe you just have one car in your family. Maybe they drop you off at the Max line. I think it's very doable, and I think it's great. Number 5, this one's a funny one because I never thought about it until I bought my house 2 years ago, is how much people care about their yards and just like their front yard, their backyard, just immaculate. Recently this year, I was trick-or-treating with some friends, and we walked by this person's house, and they just were like they were just talking about their lawn. Like, their lawn's amazing. I don't know how they do it. We always walk past it and we're always like, gosh, our lawn doesn't look like that. And then their son went up to knock on the door for trick-or-treating, and they came out, and my friends started a conversation with them about their lawn. It was awesome. So people definitely care. Now it's funny. The reason that I notice it is because it's not that I don't. I don't have grass in my yard. It's like a dirt pit. I have dogs. I have sometimes 5 dogs in my house because I dog sit sometimes. And it was never grass when I moved in, to be honest. I thought it was grass. It was just like weeds that were manicured, which I'm fine with. It's just they're not as sturdy, so like they're gone and it's a dirt pit. So I'll like look across the street at my neighbor's yard and I'm like, wow, all the flowers, everything. Now my parents this year for my birthday, they were so sweet, and they kind of did a little makeover in my yard. It looks great. And so I'm definitely someone who cares. Would say I'm not really in a place in my life right now where I have the time to put into a yard. But drive around Old Town. Look at the people's yards. I say people's yards are either like stellar or they're like not great. There's like no in between. What's nice about if you live in Fort Collins is there is the code of compliance. I didn't think we had one in Wellington, but I got a letter because of my weeds. So I'm having to take it. Like, I'm doing better. But in Fort Collins, there's a code of compliance. So you never really have to worry about like living next to someone who is completely not taking care of it. Can't speak to backyards because privacy fencing and things like that. But front yard, like the curb appeal where everyone sees it, code of compliance does get you for that. So people really care about their yards, and whether you do or you don't, it doesn't really matter. But I think it's a wonderful thing to drive around and see how much care people put into their homes, because if you're also considering buying a home and you're thinking of selling a home, like, I think it's important that the people you live around care about the neighborhood and care about doing up their homes and making their yards look nice, because that only helps you in the equity of your home down the road. Number 6, there are so many outdoor activities. And like 6.5, I want to say that so many people are so into outdoor activities. For me personally, I came from a very rainy state, very cloudy, definitely an outdoorsy state for sure, but nothing like Fort Collins. I mean, like, walk into 5 people on the street and be like, tell me 2 things you like to do for fun. I'm gonna guarantee you right now that they're gonna say something outdoorsy. It's a huge thing. It's a huge part of this community. And I love it. I think it's amazing, especially if you are not someone that likes to do a lot of physical activity, but maybe you want to, maybe deep down you're like, I want to be one of those people. I hate you right now, but I want to be one of those people. This is the place to do it, because you're going to just meet people who you want to hang out with, and they're going to say you want to go on a hike, and you're going to say sure, but not a hard one, okay? Almost a year ago, I have some very outdoorsy friends. We went on a hike. What was it called? It was... Oh, it's blanking. I'll remember. I'm blanking on it. It wasn't too far outside of Fort Collins. It was technically, I think, in Estes Park, but like not. I think it was like we went through Loveland to get there. I'm completely blanking on the name. Paradise, I think is what it was called. And I asked my friends, do I need hiking boots? Because I've lived here for 7 years and I've never owned hiking boots, because I've just done like Horsetooth Rock and like little things. I'm not a huge hiker. She said no. So what that meant to me was I could wear sneakers. Now, should I have thought it's December 31st and there's snow on the ground, so of course there's gonna be snow on the mountains? Sure, I probably should have thought about that. I didn't. And we got up to the top. We all fell probably 50 times, and they had the gear, you know, the Cotopaxi and the hiking boots and all that. I was in like leggings and a sweatshirt and a Carhartt and tennis shoes. And more than that, they were like slippery lifting shoes that I was wearing, because that's all I had. And we got all the way to the top. It was beautiful. And there was a lot of snow. And then coming down, not far from the top, I sprained my ankle so bad. Everyone heard the pop. And I basically had to lean on my friend the whole way down the mountain. So one thing I will say is, if you're new to outdoor activities like I was, ask more questions. Ask okay, so you say I don't need hiking boots. What kind of shoes should I wear? Because I don't know what the difference is between hiking boots and non-hiking boots that aren't sneakers. You know what I'm saying? So there's so many outdoor activities. Now, I'm not necessarily saying things like hiking. There's also so many parks around here, so many playgrounds, so many dog parks. I'm a huge dog person, so love that. We also have 50 miles of in-city paved biking, which I don't use now, just living in Wellington. I don't have access to it, but when I used to live off Spring Creek Trail. I used it all the time. When I would dog sit, I would be biking and let the dogs run and, like, you know, pull me, or if I was babysitting, I would take them out on the trail. It's so much fun, and I love that we have that in town here. This leads me to number 7. The weather here is seriously amazing. Amazing. Now, I moved somewhere where it rains a lot and it's very humid. So when it's cold, it's cold. And when it's hot, it's hot. And here it's just, yes, it's dry. It's dry for sure. So pack your lotion. Like, you need a extra conditioning or moisturizing shampoo and conditioner for sure. You need some lip balm. You're gonna need maybe some nasal spray. But I think that is so worth the humidity, personally. My hair thanks me every day. The weather here is amazing. When you think about those true fall breezy days where it's like a little warm, but it's like a little chilly and you can wear a sweatshirt or a flannel, we have those here all the time. And it's November right now, and it feels nice outside. When I pulled up here, it was 38 degrees outside, and it felt wonderful. We have a lot of snow on the ground right now. Blue skies, I love it. I will say the wind sucks. It sucks, and it's most prevalent in the spring. I'd say it's not as bad in Fort Collins and Wellington. It definitely sucks a lot more. In Wyoming, it sucks a lot more, but the wind definitely isn't great. But I'd say overall, we have so many sunny days. And what I love about, I was just talking, I don't remember who I was talking about this with the other day, but the sun here is like, you can feel the heat. It's amazing. And but it's not like suffocating like maybe in the South. Like, we have a lot of people who relocate from the South, and one of their reasons is we can't go outside in the summertime because it's not enjoyable, and so then we're just stuck inside in the AC all year round, or all summer. And we don't have that here, which I love. I went to the eye doctor today, And he told me that Colorado has 25% more UV rays than at sea level, which is where I came from. And so I've never been someone to wear sunglasses. I've never been someone, like, these glasses are really just more for the light and the sun and things like that. And I have to wear sunglasses here because otherwise I just get really bad headaches because it is so bright here, especially when there's snow on the ground. Holy moly. I don't remember what it's called. Snow blindness or something. I don't know. It's a snow skiing term, but it's true. I got my eyes dilated this morning and I didn't have any sunglasses and I had to put that little strip on because outside was blinding with the snow. Speaking of the sun, I am someone who, growing up in Washington, only put sunscreen in the essential areas, the face, the back of the neck, the shoulders. And I've always been very much like, I don't need to put sunscreen anywhere else, like, especially my legs. Well, I remember that my first beach day at Horsetooth, I didn't put any sunscreen on my legs and I fell asleep tanning and I woke up and my legs were burned, and they've never burned in my life. It wasn't even that hot of a day, but we truly are so much closer to the sun. Sunscreen is important, even in the wintertime. Like, for me, I would say either put a little sunscreen on every day, or if, like, you're a woman who likes to wear makeup, my makeup always has SPF in it, multiple layers, just because we are so much closer to the sun. But it's such an amazing thing. I love it. I love the heat that you feel from it. Even if it's a cold day, if the sun's out, you can, like, truly feel the heat come off the sun. I love it. Go outside. If you live here, go outside. You'll see what I'm talking about. Number 8, my final thing that I wish I knew before living here is, and this is a great thing, is it's really not that busy, which I love. Now, like I said, if you come from a smaller town, I know some people think that this place is busy. For me, it is a wonderful size of a town. I was on the phone with my sister the other day, and now granted, it was Black Friday, but even still, if it was Black Friday here, like, it's not the same. She was going to, I want to say Alderwood Mall, and I've been to that mall with her. Every time we go home, we go to that mall. And I mean, you're in traffic like miles before the exit. Like, you have to factor in traffic time when we're going to do something, like going to the mall or going to a restaurant. You have to be aware of the wait time and things like that. And something that I love about Fort Collins is that's like the whole everything's 15 minutes away is so true. I mean, kinda. It could definitely be like 20, 25. And now if it's 8 a.m. or 5 p.m. on a weekday, yeah, there's traffic for sure. We still are a small town built, but we're definitely growing. So there's definitely traffic and gonna be traffic. But I never worry about going to the mall, finding a parking spot, too many long lines in the store, going to a restaurant and having to wait any more than 20, 25 minutes. Now there are some restaurants to know, like Silver Girl Cafe is one of the most amazing and longest standing breakfast places here in Fort Collins. I used to work there. And so, yeah, if you don't want to go at 7 a.m. when we open, 8 a.m., and you want to, go when everyone else wants to go, 9:30, 10, 11, yeah, you may be waiting for 45 minutes, but it's also just a really popular place. I'd say breakfast places here are probably the only time that I experience a wait. Now, I love breakfast food, so I'm like, hey, let's hit it at 7 a.m., okay? Because I don't want to have to wait, and most people like to go later in the day. So I'd say if I did experience a wait, it's definitely for a breakfast place. But overall, I just love that it's not that busy here. I've always dealt with traffic. I've always dealt with long lines waiting for things, and here it's just quieter, and I love it. So there you have it. Those are 8 things that I personally wish that I knew before moving to Fort Collins, Colorado. I'd love to hear your feedback, or if you've recently moved here, I'd love for you to comment below what it is that you wish that you knew before moving here. I think it's great to know, especially because a lot of this channel has people who are looking and considering to move here to Fort Collins, Colorado. If you have any questions, comment, like, subscribe to this channel, let my boss know that you still want me to show up. I love doing these. It's been super fun. And if you have any questions about moving here to Fort Collins, reach out to me, our team. We are a team that works together, but we have so many different personalities, so we will make sure that you're working with someone that fits with you. It's been a pleasure once again. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you soon.